Welcome. The topic of today's discussion is a mode of constitution. What is a mode of constitution in analytic philosophy and analytic theology? Let's start with the expression mode of constitution. And what do we understand under this term? The expression mode of constitution refers to the particular way or manner in which one thing is constituted by another. To understand these, we must first distinguish constitution from identity. Okay, what's constitution itself? In analytic metaphysics, constitution is a relation between two distinct entities in which one entity constitutes another without being identical to it. For example, suppose an artist designs a lump of clay into a statue, so the lump of clay constitutes the statue, and the statue is constituted by clay. However, many philosophers argue that the clay and the statue is not identical. Why? Because they appear to have different persistence conditions. What do I mean by using these persistence conditions? First, the clay can survive being reshaped into a ball, but the statue cannot survive losing its shape. For this reason, we can say that constitution is not equal to identity. Okay, let's move to the concept of mode. Why introduce modes in this context? Sometimes merely saying X constitutes Y is too imprecise. Philosophers may ask, in what respect or in what manner does X constitute Y? This is where the idea of a mode of constitution enters. A mode specifies how constitution occurs, and it qualifies the constituting relation. Imagine constructing a house. A house is constituted by many components, bricks, steel, glass, etc. And each contributes differently. For example, brick constitutes the walls, steel constitutes the framework, glass constitutes the windows, and each is a different mode or manner of contributing to the construction of the whole. The mode tells us what role something plays in constituting an object, not merely that it contributes. And how can we explain this approach on the basis of philosophical examples? We can distinguish, for example, material constitution. It is the most familiar mode. For example, a statue is materially constituted by bronze. The bronze provides the matter from which the statue exists. The second kind of constitution can be identified as the formal constitution. Drawing on the Aristotelian tradition, some philosophers distinguish formal constitution, for example, the arrangement or organization of parts constitutes an object formally. Two objects may consist of exactly the same material, but differ because that material has a different form. We can also distinguish functional constitution. In philosophy of mind and philosophy of biology, constitution may occur through functional organization. For example, a computer is not merely constituted by silicon, it is also constituted by the functional organization of its components. Changing the organization may destroy the computer while leaving the material unchanged. Okay, we have already said that constitution is not equal to identity. Let's summarize our ideas on this context. Identity can be associated with the following idea: X is numerically identical to Y. It is related to the identity, but when we move to the constitution, we should say that X constitutes Y, but it is not identical to Y. In identity, we can distinguish only one entity, but in constitution, two distinct but closely related entities can be distinguished. And we can observe symmetric relation in identity, but in constitution we can deal with asymmetric relation, usually asymmetric relation. And with respect to the identity, we can say that there must be one entity that necessarily shares all properties. If two objects are identical, they necessarily share all properties. But in constitution, we cannot say the same proposition because there may be two distinct entities that may differ in persistence conditions or model properties. And our new subtopic in this on this context is about constitution and composition. And we cannot say that constitution is equal to the composition. They are two different concepts. These concepts are also distinct. Composition concerns how several objects together make up a whole. For example, 4 legs, a seat, and a back compose a chair. Constitution concerns how one entity constitutes another. For example, a particular piece of wood constitutes the chair. Composition answers the following question: what parts make up this object? But constitution answers what entity underlies or constitutes this object. And you may ask me why this concept is so important, so philosophically important. How can I answer to this question? The idea of constitution and where invoked modes of constitution helps philosophers explain situations in which two things appear to occupy the same place at the same time, but nevertheless differ in important respects. It is used to address puzzles about persistence, material objects, personal identity, artifacts, and in some traditions, theological and social ontology. And how can we apply this concept to the analytic theology? The expression a mode of constitution becomes especially important in analytic theology when discussing the Trinity and the Incarnation. Consider Christ. Orthodox Christianity says that Christ is fully human and Christ is fully divine. If we simply say that Christ is constituted by humanity and divinity, we immediately risk contradiction. Instead, we distinguish modes of constitution. For example, Christ is constituted according to the divine mode by the divine nature. It's our proposition 1. And Christ is constituted according to the human mode by the human nature. It's our proposition 2. In this way, the two constituting relations occur in different modes. This blocks the inference that Christ is both mortal and not mortal in the same respect. Instead, he is mortal according to one mode and immortal according to another mode. Okay, that's all for today's discussion. If you have got any questions, you can address them. I'll be very happy to answer them. Thank you for watching.